Hi everyone! It is about that time of year. In 1 week's time, the 2022 NFL Draft will emanate from Las Vegas, Nevada. And it's time, because I always try to do it a week before, maybe a little under a week before, for Tomwashere, Pittsburgh Steelers, 7 rounds, wishful thinking mock draft. 5th annual. 5 years I have now done this. And, this year, probably the most difficult one I can remember. Because it was tough this year. Well, first of all, I didn't address that the Pittsburgh Steelers, usually I will do like a post-free agency recap of what the Steelers do, or lack thereof for the most part. And the Steelers came out, kind of like gangbusters. But I feel as if Pittsburgh Steelers free agency isn't over. There is a loose badger in the wild, and I want him. And I feel like the reason why the Steelers haven't signed a safety yet is because they feel they either have the inside track or they feel confident that they're going to get him. What's taking so long, I don't know. But that is the Steelers' biggest glaring need coming into this draft. And they've mentioned it on the record. They currently have no safety, or no strong safety. But remember, I'm doing a wishful thinking mock draft. So as I'm wishful thinking, added to this wishful thinking mock draft is that the Steelers are going to sign the Honey Badger. Probably after this draft. It's not going to happen right before. Although that would help to limit, to kind of help with the direction of what you're going to do. But in this circumstance, currently, the Steelers do not have a strong safety of starting caliber on this roster. So that is their biggest need by considerable margin. So we are going to get into it on Tom Was Here.
This is Robert Stack, and when I'm not solving mysteries, I'm watching Tom Was Here.
Okay, the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock. Can you hear it? They're on the clock. With the 20th pick in the first round of the 2022 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Jordan Davis, defensive tackle, Georgia. First round, 20th selection overall. I argue against the Steelers trading up. I'm just going to let you know flat out right now. If you're Kevin Colbert, in a very odd situation, let's be honest here. A very odd situation. Most GMs either are ousted at the end of the year or they retire at the end of the season. Let the new GM come in and, handle their first draft and kind of the free agency and all that stuff. But Kevin Colbert handled free agency, is handling the draft, and is stepping down after the draft. Now, Kevin Colbert is supposedly taking on another role within the organization. However, are you going to cut your new GM off at the knees by trading significant future draft capital? Okay, the pick is in. Okay, 20th pick overall. The Pittsburgh Steelers select Jordan Davis, defensive tackle out of Georgia. Now, did not take a quarterback. I know the Steelers have been sniffing around quarterbacks. I know they have been tipping their hand and showing their cards, saying that it'll probably be a quarterback. But I'll be honest with you, I would not trade up for a quarterback. Not in this draft. Because this year, more than most, I have a lot of concerns about the quarterbacks in this class. Major concerns, in fact. So, I go back to what Art Rooney said at his press conference at the end of last season. He said his 2 things that he wants to shore up for next season are, he wants to improve the Steelers' run game, which they did. They added interior offensive linemen. Arguably, their biggest weakness, or one of their biggest weaknesses, was the O-line. But he also said he wanted to stop the run on defense, of which they got gashed. They got run through right up the gut. I mean, go watch some highlights from games last year. They were getting just right up the middle, just gashed. Real bad. Real bad. And the Alu injury didn't help. He was injured very early on. They had really nothing to fill that gap. Tuitt being out last season because of the unfortunate situation with his brother did not help that situation. Is Tuitt coming back? Don't know. Don't know what's happening with Tuitt. It's a weird gray area of what's happening with Tuitt. They mentioned he's been at the facility. They mentioned that they feel confident. But when you see like the Instagram videos or the training videos or all that stuff, you see like Hayward and other people doing some you don't ever see Tuitt. Now, it's not Tuitt's fault that maybe he's limited on, he's not going to go up on social media and do stuff or post stuff or whatever. But I have concerns that he might not be back. Alu's going to be 35. Cam Hayward's 33, 34? The Steelers flirted with Fletcher Cox last year. They were going to try to trade for him from the Eagles. I think they might have placed a call to him after the Eagles cut him, but he ended up ultimately going back to the Eagles for a 1-year deal. They need a plugger. They need a giant human in the middle of the field that's going to eat 2 offensive linemen every play. Jordan Davis is that guy. He is a physical freak of nature. You're talking 6'6", 341, ran a 4.7 40. Do you realize the absurdity of what that is? He is a freak. And I want him. And I gotta have him. He, like I said, there's the only concern. There are concerns. Look, every draft, every year, there are concerns. I think the NFL rate him as a boom or bust potential. And the concerns with him are, believe when he played at Georgia, he was tipping the scales like a little under 400 pounds. By the time he got the draft time, he was down about 50 or so pounds. There's the issue of weight. There's also the issue of, can he play all 3 downs? Can he play all 3 downs? Is he a 3-down lineman in this league? Because if he's not, are you wasting a first-round pick on a guy that only plays 2 snaps? I have concerns there. But what I will tell you is this. Steelers have never had someone like him. And the closest one they had was an undersized Casey Hampton, by comparison. And that's the last time they had one. So if you say, defensive tackles type grow on trees, and we can get our quarterback of the future here. When's the last time we had a defensive tackle that was like someone that was plugging up 2 offensive linemen each snap? I'll wait. Jordan Davis, for me, is the pick. If he falls to 20, and look, Tomlin said it on the record. Tomlin has stated on the record that he feels Jordan Davis is going to be hugging the commissioner before the Steelers pick. And that there's something about him being in the Jordan Davis business, and he said he'll always be in the Jordan Davis business, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. Point being is, the Pittsburgh Steelers are the number 1 spending team on football defense in the NFL. And they are the number 32 team on football spending offense in the NFL, at least at last projection there. So is it kind of silly that the Pittsburgh Steelers would draft defense in the first round? Sure. Have they drafted offense the last few years with their first pick of each draft? Yes. I mean, unless you count the Mika Fitzpatrick, which of course was a trade for a defensive player, but their first selection in that round was Claypool, was an offensive guy. So, I think this is the pick. If he somehow falls to 20, and my wishful thinking says he does, you have to make that pick. He gives you an element that you don't have. And imagine if Tuitt comes back and they sign the Honey Badger. Imagine that when they play 3-4, think it. Hayward, Tuitt, Davis. up front. Badger lurking. You got Bush, Miles Jack, Watt, Highsmith, Fitzpatrick, and Honey Badger were on the safeties. You got Wallace, Witherspoon. That defense can win a championship. That defense would be legit. Is it feasible? Sure. Is it possible? It's hard to say. But I will tell you, there's been no more. The draft fluctuation in this particular 2022 mock is all over the place. I have seen Jordan Davis go within the top 10 picks at one point in mock drafts. Now seems to go between 10 and 19. More than a few drafts have him going 20 to 25. No one seems to know. But I'm telling you, I would take him at 20 if he is available over almost everyone else. The only one I wouldn't is Kyle Hamilton. Because you right now do not have a safety. And if you are not going to draft the Badger, or you're not going to sign the Badger, if you're not going to sign the Badger, or you feel like you're out of the Honey Badger business, and, apparently they have a contract out to Edmonds who has not signed anything yet, then you got to bring Kyle Hamilton in, and then that's your guy. But that's the only guy I would draft over Jordan Davis, unless, let me clarify, unless there was some freak fall from one of the top guys. But for me, the pick is in, it's Jordan Davis, and I'm thrilled in that regard. With the 52nd pick in the second round of the 2022 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Desmond Ridder, quarterback, Cincinnati. Okay, the 20th pick in the second round, number 52 overall. The Pittsburgh Steelers select Desmond Ridder, quarterback, Cincinnati. I know what you're thinking. He ain't gonna be here. He won't be here. I know he won't be here. But he might. You know why? Because when this whole process started, Devin Ridder wasn't being talked about in the first round conversation. He was being talked about in the second round conversation. So, in this circumstance, the Steelers have their cake and they eat it too. They get Jordan Davis and they still get Desmond Ridder on the second round side. Now, the reason why I chose Ridder here is because Desmond Ridder would be the quarterback of any quarterbacks that I assume would fall out of the first round. I do think that there will be some QBs that will be taken in the first round. To be honest, it could be anywhere from 2 to 3, in my opinion. And there's tiers, at least based on the mock draft. Now, the mock draft to me is like how they do the Oscars. There's a lot of campaigning involved. The Oscar is not always given out every year to the best performance. It's given out to who campaigned the best. And I feel like these agents and these handlers of these guys, I don't know if they pay these mock draft people to throw their name in the first round conversation, which would be smart. I mean, it's not illegal. It's not like it's like college football where you're paying for, players to go to your school or something. This would be just saying like, hey to the world, hey, I think Desmond Ridder is the best quarterback on my board. And that's someone's opinion. So, can someone's opinion be bought? Is it a conspiracy theory? Perhaps. I don't know how that works. But I can tell you this, Desmond Ridder, now you could say that was because of maybe his combine or, his pro day or his workout or whatever, started climbing up the boards into the first round conversation. Sam Howell, who would have been probably the number one quarterback taken the year before, is now seemingly out of the first round conversation. So there's a continental divide if you look at mock drafts, where it seems Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, and Desmond Ridder are somehow in this first round bubble, and Matt Corral, Sam Howell, Carson Strong especially, are now out of that first round, or even in Carson Strong's case, I think it's because of injuries, significantly out of that. There's projections of him going in like the third round, fourth round. So I'm hoping that the Lions, which I don't think they're going to do it, but just in pure draft craziness, take Malik Willis at 2 for fun, because the whole draft will be blown up at that point. I love when a team goes against the grain. They pick a player that is not exactly what most people suspect, and it throws everything for a loop. I love the drama. Also, I want Malik Willis off the board at 2 because I'll be honest, I have major concerns about Malik Willis's game. The athleticism's there. He has raw athleticism, but he is raw. He played at Liberty. There's people salivating over these highlights of Malik Willis, and then you look down and see who he's playing. He's playing Middle Tennessee State, Old Dominion. The times where he played against NFL level competition, he struggled mightily. When he played against teams like Arkansas, he struggled. So you can, in some cases, you can look good against you can look good against a small school competition. When you have to play NFL competition, not to mention you're playing the best of the best in the NFL, they're saying he's so raw that he shouldn't even touch the field this year. Like that he should be the third string quarterback on a team that drafts him in the first round. I don't know how I feel about that. There's glaring concerns there. The hope is you want your first round guy to learn like a sponge and whatever, and not saying that Malik Willis won't, because I feel like he will, but at least be your backup or beat out an incumbent veteran, unless you're truly, like I said, then that's the concern with a lot of these quarterbacks, is that not all of them are considered ready to go. So Kenny Pickett potentially could be the most pro-ready of the bunch, but the small hands are a concern. With Ridder, there's concern about the deep ball, accuracy, third down conversions. There are concerns there. But it's much more palatable to take a quarterback in the second round than there is in the first. Now, are there going to be quarterbacks in the second round? It's hard to say. Now, Ridder may not be there in the second round. I almost put Howell here, but I don't think Howell will be there. Maybe Corral or Carson Strong, but do you want Carson Strong in the second round with his injury problems? I don't know. I just think I don't feel that the Steelers have to take a quarterback in this draft. And keep in mind, I'm basing that off of that it seems like everybody's down on this year's class. But think about the many years where these experts said this was the greatest class to ever come out, and they're bums. Think about the Jared Goff, Carson Wentz years. What did they turn out to be? Think about the fact that our current QB1, Mitch Trubisky, was drafted over Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. The Bears thought he was that good that they actually traded up with San Francisco and traded the moon. They traded significant capital to move up one spot because they felt that other teams were going to move up ahead of them to draft Mitch Trubisky. So what's to believe? What expert do you believe? So anyway, if you somehow got like a Ridder in the second round after getting Jordan Davis in the first, you win. And this happened in a mock on CBS Sports this week. So not everybody is saying Ridder's a consensus one now. there's a lot of uncertainty there. And I feel that if you got Ritter in the second, and like I said, there are teams that may not reach on a quarterback this year. The NFL gets a little QB crazy at the draft. And you seem to trade up like they did in that year. It started with that Mitch Trubisky year. I swear. More than, maybe it happened in years past, but that's the one I significantly remember. Where teams were trading up, they kept trading up into the top 10 and drafting like everybody. Just like we're going to move from 30 to 10 to draft our quarterback. Well, I just don't know if this is the year that happens. So either quarterbacks fall mightily, or one or two get taken early on, and then there's a significant drop. And the hope being is that Ritter, for all his hype and whatever, drops. Because I would absolutely take Ritter in the second. And I wouldn't even be mad. I wouldn't be mad about almost anybody in the second. You're telling me, I saw one where Pickett went in the second, please. Give him to me. I'll take his small hands and everything. In a second! Because it's not your first round pick. I'm even fine if the Steelers did something where they got, say, a Kyle Hamilton or Jordan Davis, then traded draft capital in this draft if they wanted to move up to 32 where Detroit is and take a quarterback there. Because it wouldn't take as much as having to move up into the top 10. Because a lot of people seem to think the Steelers are just going to absolutely trade up to 8 or 6 or whatever. Trade up ahead of Atlanta and the Seahawks, QB needy teams, to get this. You know what that would take? At least a first-round pick next year, if not more. No, it's okay. Because there's no QB for me that's worth trading up for. Now, if one slides to 20, I'm still, especially if there's like a Jordan Davis on the board. Now, if there's no other players on the board that they rate as high, or there's no other major need on the board, then of course you take QB. But in this circumstance, they somehow come away with Jordan Davis and Desmond Ritter, and I'm okay with that. With the 84th pick in the third round of the 2022 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Nick Cross, safety, Maryland. Third round, 84th pick overall, you have Nick Cross, safety, Maryland. Now, I want the Steelers to sign the Honey Badger. You want the Steelers to sign the Honey Badger. But let's face it, currently, behind both safety positions, who's running that depth? Miles Killebrew? Carl Joseph? Is that your major safety depth behind, Mika or something, or even in this case, somebody else gets hurt, because they're going to sign someone. Because if they lose out on the Badger, and let's say they lose out on Edmonds as well, they're going to have to either scramble to sign someone or make a deal for someone. So, in this circumstance, why don't you just add a safety? And look, the Steelers love Maryland safeties. They did it with Sean Davis. They did it with Antoine Brooks. Neither of them worked out. And the fact that he's even associated with those names concerns me. But here's the thing on Nick Cross. He's a track star at Maryland. Ran 4.3 speed. Good size, good physicality. So you bring a guy like that in, and maybe he's not, I believe he did play, I think, free at Maryland. So could he be someone that would come in and play like a strong safety? Like I said, he's a good tackler. Obviously he's here in the third round. Do you want to rely on someone that's a third round pick to be your starting free safety? Not necessarily, but if he's being groomed by the best, when you have certain ones where you can get him on the field in like nickel and dime packages, or learning like a sponge from, say, Mika or the Honey Badger for depth, you have to You have to make that pick as a purely depth move and as a major need for this team because they don't have it. Now, I'll be honest. I thought about putting Kobe Bryant here. Kobe Bryant is the Cincinnati, not to be confused, but is the Cincinnati defensive back that was on the opposite side of Sauce. And Kobe Bryant, I believe, won the Jim Thorpe Award as best defensive back in college football while he played with Sauce on the team. Now, is that because he's playing with Sauce and they're not tossing Sauce's way and they're giving him all the work and he's making advantage of it? That's a tougher gig, to be honest with you. If they're terrified of the potential of Sauce and you want to throw it towards the second corner because you hope you can get more of that and he stepped up big time, I would consider that as well. But for me, safety was the bigger need here because of the lack of depth. Look, leave a message in the comments below and let me know, so far of this 3 picks, are you mad at these 3 picks? Who would you have taken with those top 3 picks? Let me know in the comments below.
With the 138th pick in the 4th round of the 2022 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Kyle Phillips, wide receiver, UCLA.
Now we move into the 4th round. So the original pick on this 4th round was traded to the Miami Dolphins as part of the Fitzpatrick deal. So this is a compensatory selection. And it is the 33rd pick in round 4. 138 overall. The Steelers select Kyle Phillips, wide receiver, UCLA. The Steelers were down 3 receivers from last year. Down Juju, down Washington, down Ray Ray. Ray Ray has signed with San Francisco. Juju has signed with Kansas City. Washington has signed with the Cowboys. They really didn't do much to fill any of those roles. Now, they have Anthony Miller on the practice squad last year. Anthony Miller apparently had or did he have some rapport with, they were there at the same time, right? With Mitch Trubisky. The idea is maybe he can move up, a former 2nd-round pick guy. They just added Miles Boykin. So you take a chance on Miles Boykin. You hope his killer size and speed will be enough to fill a role in this team. But look, the fact is that you currently don't have a slot receiver. And Kyle Phillips fills that slot. The downside on Kyle Phillips is that's all he does. If you're looking at a guy that will play a slot now that eventually grew him into an outside wide receiver, you are mistaken. Kyle Phillips is a tried and true slot guy. But great hands, not like super game-changing speed, but good-sized speed, can separate, and great route runner. Fantastic route runner. It made all the catches for UCLA. Will he be here in the 4th? It's hard to say. Maybe it hurts him that he's a tried and true slot man. Maybe the Steelers don't want him because he's only a tried and true slot man. But look, how many times did the Steelers run 3 receiver sets? A good bit. And I think you want a guy that can make those tough catches. Phillips, 5'11", 189, 4'5", 40. So not the greatest. Not the greatest. A 33.5 vertical. So he'll have to bulk up a little bit. The NFL rates him as average backup or special teamer. Not exactly a great, not exactly a, glowing endorsement, I guess you could say, from NFL. But they call, he is a tried and true slot receiver. Like I said, I don't know if he'll make the step up to them, but he has return skills. The Steelers did sign Gunnar Olszewski or something from New England to fill kind of that return role. So wouldn't necessarily need him in that regard. But I like what I saw. I like the highlights that I saw from him. I like, that he can kind of make that slippery play every once in a while, that he's, pretty sure-handed, and is a tried and true slot man. Look, the Steelers need that guy. They do not have that guy currently on the roster, at least at the moment, unless you're assuming Anthony Miller is that guy, and that's a big assumption at this point. So There were a couple other guys that I did like receiver-wise. The guy that I was going to put before Miles Boykin, I was probably going to put him in the third round over Nick Cross, was Alec Pierce from Cincinnati. He's 6'4", 200, ran I believe a 4.440, which is, or he's either 6'3" or 6'4", but that's ridiculous. Like, that is, it's like a freak. But then Miles Boykin has the exact same traits, so who, at that point, you're going to sign two of the same guy? You're going to have one guy on roster and another guy you drafted that have similar skill sets? Probably not. So when I looked at the value, wide receivers kind of that would be lurking around this seemed like the best option there. But this is a giant deep receiver class. So I wanted a guy that was a tried and true slot. But there were other receivers on the board that may work better. And look, there's another looming elephant in the room. Are the Steelers going to sign Deontay Johnson to big money? Because this draft will tell us a lot. This draft are going to tell us a ton about the Steelers and their future. They're going to tell us if all the chips are in and there's a quarterback they like that it's going to, be groomed by Trubisky. That Trubisky's going to do his year or two and be on his way. If the Steelers go safety early, you'll know they're probably out on Honey Badger. If the Steelers draft more than one receiver, especially early receivers, you're going to wonder if it's because maybe they're looking to move Deontay Johnson, that they're not going to pay him that giant contract that he wants, that $20+ million a season, even though the market kind of dictates that's what would be the money that you pay him. But there's just concerns about the drops. Like I said, he's a great route runner. Worked on his hands a ton, had a bunch of drops the previous season, was pretty good shorthanded, and I believe had his best season this year. But at the end of the season, those drops started lurking around again. In the last few games of the season, I believe he had like no drops in like 12+ games, and then in the last like 2 or 3 games, he had like 4 or 5 or 6 drops. That's a concern. And is that something you're going to pay $20+ million to for a guy that has drops like that? I don't know. And that's where I think, like, if the Steelers go, let's even say Steelers go wide receiver in the first round, then you really, start to wonder about Deontay Johnson and his place on the team for the long haul. Whether they move him this year or they just ride it out this year and let him get his money elsewhere. Who's to say? They have no pick in the 5th round. They traded it away for the Joe Schobert one, maybe? Or was that something else? Anywho, 6th round.
With the 208th pick in the 6th round of the 2022 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Isaiah Thomas, outside linebacker, Oklahoma.
30th pick in the round, 208th pick overall. This was the deal with the Kansas City Chiefs for Melvin Ingram. So, because look, they got rid of Quincy Roche, who was their pick in the 6th round this past season. He was going to be your depth guy. Keep in mind, regardless of where you feel that these players will fall or whether you're interested in these players or not, Quincy Roche was supposed to be he's projected as a 3rd round guy. The Steelers drafted him in the 6th round last year. So he fell hard. There are going to be players that people like that are going to fall hard in this draft, as they do every year. But in this circumstance, you traded away an edge to get an edge. Isaiah Thomas, outside linebacker, Oklahoma. Oklahoma had a nice 1-2 combo, guys. And Isaiah Thomas is not the regarded of the two, but he's solid. Keep in mind, the Steelers do not necessarily need a starting edge rusher, but they absolutely do need depth at edge rusher. Currently, behind Watt and behind Highsmith, you have who? Is this still Steven Tuska or whatever that guy's name is? Is that's your guy? So, you want to bring in someone that's going to provide quality depth in the 6th round. Look, I looked for edge earlier, but do you necessarily need edge earlier? I don't know if you do. I don't know if you need edge earlier than somebody like a 6th, 7th round guy. You need depth. Now, you can buy veteran depth. But I just can't think of like who would spell currently Watt or Highsmith, or if Watt, who battled a ton of injuries last year. Now, look, he was the NFL Defensive Player of the Year, but keep in mind, if you remember, he came off the field a good bit. Like a whole lot. Now he might end up coming back on the field, but you need a kind of a guy that's going to be in there, that's going to be able to take those snaps and make those plays if someone leaves for an extended period of time. Isaiah Thomas is that guy. Isaiah Thomas, kind of that natural, like eater of the quarterback. Like, if you just, kind of like we do with Watt, you go hunt, and he goes and hunts. Or James Harrison before him, go hunt for that QB. Now, like I said, it's you're getting him in the 6th round, so he's not like, it's not like this is the guy that's going to be like the top guy in the class, but they rated that edge rushers, outside linebackers is the deepest in this draft. And keep in mind the first 2 guys, your Trayvon Walkers, your Aiden Hutchinsons, are edge rushers. So, they said that's the deepest depth of anything from this class.
With the 225th pick in the 7th round of the 2022 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Ty Chandler, running back, North Carolina.
Okay, first of 2 7th round picks. This is the 4th pick in the round. It's the 225th pick overall. The Pittsburgh Steelers select Ty Chandler, running back, North Carolina. So, keep in mind, this is a 7th round guy. But Ty Chandler had a nice little season at North Carolina. And he's fast. And look, similar to depth at edge rusher, I have little to no confidence in the depth behind Najee Harris at running back. Now, I know the names. The names are Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland, and I'll be honest, neither of them I'm enchanted by. Anthony McFarland and Benny Snell were both 4th round picks. And I believe back-to-back seasons, if I remember correctly. Or maybe they're 2 seasons apart. But anywho, 4th round picks usually, or at least someone that is going to contribute to a team, potentially even work their way into a, not necessarily a starter position, but a primary backup position. Or, let's put it this way. Can you rely on either of them to be a spellback for Najee? Najee, based on what they have currently, is going to get 500 snaps or something absurd, 400 snaps, a significant, basically all the snaps. Because Benny Snell is basically like he's not a change of pace back. Now, Anthony McFarland is a change of pace back, but the guy's never on the field. He's never on the field. So the question is that do you just cut bait and run? In this case, they bring in Ty Chandler to compete. Ty Chandler probably shouldn't be here in the 7th round. Not saying he's like some, great gangbusters pick, but he's got nice speed. But, is that game-changing speed, which Najee, I love Najee, but Najee doesn't have that, like, home run speed, whereas Ty Chandler does. Now, I'll be honest, I was looking for a running back earlier. There's not a there's a couple intriguing running backs I like, but the running backs in this draft are more like a Najee type and not like a change of pace type. There's a couple bruisers, there's a couple speed guys, but at this point it was a 7th round pick. I was like, all right, Ty Chandler, you're all right. You made it. Like I said, he can. I kind of want that that Willie Parker type, that Willie Parker that we haven't seen since Willie Parker. You need that change of pace. Ty Chandler's the guy.
With the 241st pick in the 7th round of the 2022 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Connor Hayward, tight end, Michigan State.
Okay. 241, the 20th pick in the round 7. You have Connor Hayward, tight end, Michigan State. Now, let's not kid ourselves. When I made this mock draft, and I've changed it around so many times over the past few weeks, the two positions I never changed were the first round, Jordan Davis, and the last round, Connor Hayward. Because Connor Hayward is projected to go in that 6-7 range, and you're telling me the team that has two Watt brothers and two Edmonds brothers are not going to put two Hayward brothers on the team? Of course they will. And look, Connor Hayward may be the guy that pushes one of the Watt brothers out. Now, this is not a position of need. It's tight end. He's not really a tight end. He's more a fullback, special teams, kind of like jack-of-all-trades type guy. But he can catch out of the backfield. So, is he going to be good enough to take the special teams role away from Derek Watt? Save whatever you can save by cutting Derek Watt and having this guy here to basically do the same thing. The rare few times that the Pittsburgh Steelers do use a fullback, he can come in. Short yardage, if you want to kind of run him as short yardage, kind of like a Bettis type. He has that bulky frame that he can come in and do that. Occasional sneaky, like Kyle Kuschek pass out of the backfield, he can do that. Just keep in mind, he played tight end. But he's very undersized for a tight end. So if this doesn't happen here, if he does not get drafted with the last pick or becomes an undrafted free agent, he will be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Stamp it right now. I'm so certain about that pick. I would say it's the most certain pick that I have in this draft. Maybe not necessarily a 241, but I'm telling you, Connor Hayward, barring, like I said, some outside team taking him super early, will be a Pittsburgh Steeler this season. I'm fully confident in that regard. That's the draft. 7 rounds. Wishful thinking. Did it go the way you hoped? Now, I'll be honest. If you come out of that first 3 with Jordan Davis, Desmond Ridder, Nick Cross, you feel pretty good. I would feel pretty good. I would feel pretty good about that. Like I said, Kyle Phillips is a slot guy. And I feel like he could be a premium slot guy in the league, as he's going to run exclusively slot. You need a slot receiver. And if it's a dude that comes in and runs exclusively slot, that's your guy. Now, there might be other receivers. There were a couple other receivers, like I said, around the same time that I was intrigued by, but they're tiny. There's a couple of real tiny guys that are falling in the 3rd and 4th round that have, kind of like a gadget guy. Think of like maybe a Deebo Samuel super light, like a 1-calorie Deebo Samuel. But some of these guys are like 5'7", 5'8". We kind of played that game before. You had your Dre Archers of the world. It didn't exactly work. Isaiah Thomas edge, steady and true backup guy. You hope he can come in and spell out your starters every once in a while. Ty Chandler at running back gives you something you don't have on the roster. Connor Hayward, just because of the legacy. The bloodline, the legacy, the fact that he'll be with his brother, the fact that arguably he'll be able to carve out a special teams and a fullback role in this team, most likely, would be the case. So, some concerns here. I really looked for a tackle in this draft. Keep in mind, the Steelers added 2 interior offensive linemen with Mason Cole and James Daniels, and they re-upped J.C. Hassenauer. So the Draft Network puts out a mock draft simulator, has the Steelers' top need is inside offensive line. No, they signed 3 of them. They don't need inside offensive line. Not saying they won't draft it in the later rounds, but I would have more concerns about the depth at tackle behind Dan Moore and Chuck Okorafor. Now, between those two, I don't know who's playing your backup tackle role. The one benefit I can say about the Steelers is that the Steelers seem to always find these guys on free agency. Usually undrafted guys or people that sign onto the roster late that fill significant roles for this team. J.C. Hassenauer, I believe, was undrafted. LeGlue was undrafted. Guys that you find in the dirt, it seems like they find offensive line more than most. So maybe that's why I kind of lean to them not getting a tackle or a guard in this draft. Although maybe they'll trade one of these picks down, gain some more picks, and they'll be able to add somebody on the old line. The other concern that I didn't add was corner. Now the Steelers signed 3 corners as well. They signed Caleb Witherspoon, who was on the team last year. They signed Levi Wallace. They signed Arthur Millette. But they also have Sutton. They have Trey Norwood. They have, who am I forgetting? James Pierre, who is another guy that they're finding either undrafted or from like the XFL or the USFL or wherever they find these guys. So it seems offensive line and corner, the 2 positions I left out, the Steelers seem to be able to find them better on the street than they do in the draft. Is this the perfect draft? No. No. Far from it, in fact. But I feel good. If the Steelers came out of it with this player, I would feel pretty darn good about this draft. It'll be 1 week to the Pittsburgh Steelers draft. I may end up going live that night just for instant reaction, because they are probably going to take a quarterback and I'll probably be bummed out. Most likely they're going to do it. They're going to twist the screwdriver a little deeper in the back because most likely Jordan Davis will still be there. I think this draft's going to be wild. There are a lot of big names that are being tossed around out there. I'm looking forward to the drama. Also, day 3 of the NFL draft, I will be back down at Heinz Field. Heinz Field draft party is coming back. So excited. After a 2-year hiatus, we'll be back down Heinz Field for day 3. So looking forward to that. Unfortunately, of course, I did not realize, and I have an event later that night I'm also going to be doing a filming on. So I did double book myself. So I will have to leave earlier, which is unfortunate because I love the last few hours of the Steelers draft party. But I did notice they shortened the hours too. It used to be 12 to 6, now it's 12 to 5. So maybe that last hour that used to be freedom to run on the field and play and frolic around may be gone, sadly. But anyway, I'm still happy it's back. It's one of my favorite events of the year, and looking forward to it. So if you see me down there, stop, say hi, say, hey, your draft was terrible. The Steelers picked way better than you did. You're out of your mind. Whatever you want to come, but just stop, say hi. If you watch the channel or whatever, happy to say hi, happy to shoot the breeze with you. Big fan of running into people that say they watch the videos of, And like I said, if you didn't like the draft, let me know why. It's always convenient. A lot of people they'll just downvote it. But they won't say, hey, your draft sucks because reason ABC. I'm happy to take on your criticism. I'm happy to debate with you in the comments. So let me know your thoughts on this draft. Is this the draft you want? Are there any players here that you want? Do you hate this draft with a passion? I want any and all feedback. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And guys, thanks so much for watching. If you are new here, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. They can support me on Patreon like John Bailey did. You can do so. Link is in the description below. If you'd like to buy a t-shirt, a Tomwashere t-shirt, you can do so at Spreadshirt, as well as links to my eBay store, Facebook page, Instagram, Clubhouse, and the Pennsylvania Autograph Collectors Association. Links are in the description below. So, guys, thanks so much for watching. And sorry I'm slightly under the weather because there's a cold running through this house, and I'm taking cough medicine, so you can hear the nasaliness in my voice. But until the next video, and maybe until the NFL draft, I will see you soon. But until then, bye everyone.